So this number right here is kind of important. Yeah, it says 3.8230 inches, okay? So this is basically what we are doing. We're measuring the tolerance of the actual head studs themselves and making sure that all 6 of them are within, I think IAG says 10 thousandths. So I pretty much measured them all and they all come out to be anywhere between 3.8230 and 3.8225. So that is within our 10 thousandths window. That is actually 5 thousandths. So all good there. Just a good reference to make sure that you're getting equal clamping force. So nice Amazon special here. No big deal. So here you can actually see the thickness of the rings. Fit nice and snug, just like a bug in a rug. Literally, they sit flush. Like the preciseness of the machining that goes into these blocks that IAG does is absolutely phenomenal, you guys. Like, hands down, the fit and finish is fucking perfect. Like, man, it is worth the money. I will tell you that right now. It is worth the money. Now it's time to go ahead and get this guy out of the packaging. We'll go ahead and get our cams out, or get all our cam caps off and get our cams out. And go ahead and get ready to torque this one onto the block. These are only hand tight, so an impact I'm not all that concerned about. Quite a bit on this one, just because there's none on the washer. So if it needs some extra, there's some extra. Just like that. So at this point, we're gonna take our 18mm 12-point socket and we're just gonna sink them down until they get snug. Okay, for this, Remember, we're going in steps, and we're doing the inner 2 are different torque than the outer 4 for like the first 5 steps or 4 torque sequences. So I mentioned earlier that we were gonna put this together and let it sit overnight and come back and re-torque the heads for a second time at our final torque value, which is gonna be 155 foot-pounds. I do that because I can almost guarantee you that we're gonna put a torque wrench on these and at least one of them is going to move. Because what we're basically doing, since we can't heat cycle it, we are allowing the bolts to stretch, essentially. And once they do that, then we can go back in and actually fix it, or get them back to the proper torque value with the new stretch of the bolt. So I went ahead and stripped all the cams and everything out of this head, which has been sitting for actually about 2 days now, believe it or not. And we're gonna put a torque wrench on it and see what happens. So I already have the torque wrench set to 155 foot-pounds because we just torqued the other head. So let's see what happens, shall we? That one kind of moved. Sorry, I'm like totally in your way, aren't I? We got one to move just a little bit, not much, but like I said, the 155 foot-pounds that we're doing this time around is quite a bit. So we got a lot of the bolts to stretch when we were actually torquing them the first time, but I'm pretty confident that we should be all good to go. So just a double check feature, but I'm giving it a big old thumbs up. So what we are gonna go ahead and do is we're gonna clean all the cam journals. We're gonna clean the top of the buckets with brake cleaner and a microfiber. We're gonna clean the bridge and basically prep the entire surface for not only RTV, but for us to go ahead and put assembly lube on all the cam journals, buckets, and camshafts themselves. So let's just go ahead and bust into this. This is probably the most tedious process of this whole deal, but I will show you guys exactly what I'm gonna do and how I'm gonna do it. So let's go. pretty much time to go ahead and start lubing up our buckets and our camshafts. So we're gonna pretty much just put assembly lube on the top of all the buckets. No need to be shy. I always really glop it on there because I want the best chance against, you know, a dry engine for as long as I need to crank it, essentially. You're not gonna hurt anything by using more than you think. I think in this case, it's better to have too much than not enough. I've never heard of anyone having any issues with like plugging oil galleys or anything like that. Like I said, this stuff, this driven stuff is designed specifically for flat tappet engines, just like this, so. I've always just, you know, really caked it on there and called it a day. Okay, now all that's lubed up, we'll go ahead and lube the actual cam lobes. So all I'm doing is just wiping away any extra assembly lube that got up over the top where the cam capsule sit, because I don't want any assembly lube to get in between the cap and the actual casting that could potentially distort or change our torque value. Although it's not that much, still I would like to have the best chance of success once again. Alright, so now that we got all the cams in, I've got two of the caps just loosely sitting in there, but I now have the bridge here, and it's time to go ahead and RTV it, which basically what we're going to do is we're just going to go down the edges here, around the hole, down, here, around the hole, down, around the hole, and down. And this will go on. There's assembly lube on this camshaft journal and this camshaft journal, so we don't have to put any in here. I am going to put some in here though to lube up the front side of the cams. There is assembly lube on the bottom side, but just to be safe, I'll put a little bit more. So let's go ahead and start laying a bead of RTV in here, and then we'll kind of just go from there. Okay, that's pretty much it right there. So we will go ahead and put some assembly lube here and here, and then call this one good. Okay, moment of truth. like to do is kind of get it seated down. And then we'll put the bolts in. And we're just gonna go ahead and let it sit for a little while. And let it start tacking up. Now there is a torque sequence for these bolts as well, but I'm gonna kind of show you guys a secret. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna install the cam seals before we cinch these down. And the reason we do that is because when we cinch these nuts down, it's going to compress onto the seal, and that way we don't necessarily have to like pound them in or fight it to get them in. So, kind of a cool trick. So we have our cam seals here. So basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and stick these guys in. And these guys you want flush with the bevel. So I'll show you guys what I'm talking about here. All right, so when it comes to these cam seals, like I said, we leave a little crack in here, and when these bolts get cinched down, it'll squeeze the cam seal and keep it in place. But what I talk about when I say flush with the bevel, you see the little, there's like a taper right here, machine taper all the way around. You want the cam seal to be flush with the inside of that taper, just like you can see there. Sit and tack up for probably about an hour, and then we'll come in across here and we'll torque all of them in the proper torque sequence. It's a little more RTV on there than I wanted to be on there, but kind of is what it is at this point. I don't think it's gonna be a cause for concern or anything like that. I mean, it's a pretty uniform bead. It's just, there's a little more up here in the fronts than I would have liked. But the good part is there's no real oil galleys or passages right here that really would be a cause for concern. It's been about, I don't know, half hour, 40 minutes. I'll put the sequence and the torque values on here, but basically the silver bolts are 7 foot-pounds, and then all the cam cap bolts are all 14.5 foot-pounds. Now there is a torque order, and it goes A, B, C, D, E, F. So we're gonna start with the outer ones, which are 7 foot-pounds. So there's A, B, Now we'll go to 14.5 foot-pounds. So A, B, C, D, E, F, out to in basically. Okay. Now we'll do the same on the outer, or on the other side. We'll go down to 7 foot-pounds. 7. Okay, out to in. Okay, now 14.5, 10, 14.5. So A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay. Now the real test is going to be to see if they still turn, which they do. Oh yeah. That's a good sign. Oh yeah, and they feel good too. Cool. That is going to wrap this one up. I feel like this video is probably way too long as it is. Again, I spent a whole bunch of extra time to make sure that I tried to touch on almost every single detail. If I missed something, I will link a video or post one up in the corner there or whatever of a 600 wheel horsepower build that I did, where I also go into pretty good detail. But at this point, our cams turn nice and free. We've got the bridges and the caps all torqued. Pretty much the only thing left to do is put the valve cover on, which most people, or Subaru says not to, but what I do is I put a real thin bead of RTV on the actual valve cover gasket itself. Like I'll actually just use my finger, like super thin, and I'll also do it on the spark plug gaskets as well, just, you know, for a little bit of safety measure. Other than that, I showed you pretty much everything else that needs to go on with this. I'm just going to go ahead and finish the other side of the motor because it's pretty much just the exact same process. I showed you about all the seals. I showed you pretty much everything you know to be able to get a set of heads on here and get them all torqued with the values and sequences and pretty much everything like that. So I really hope this helped, guys. I'm going to be starting to switch this up. Instead of like a how-to kind of thing, we're going to start trying to spice this up a little bit. I have some really good ideas as to what exactly to do and how to do them. So we are going to touch base on a couple other things with this in the next video, like oil pan, windage tray, timing components, oil pump, stuff like that. So we'll finish out this series and get this motor completely ready. But as soon as it's time to swap over to start doing a bunch of components and stuff with the STI, we're going to start having some fun. So I hope you guys like this. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe. It really helped me out. Drop a like, drop a comment down below. Tell me if you're excited to see this thing run or not, because damn, I sure as hell am. And as I see this thing come together, I just get more and more and more excited. So, yeah, you know, I guess we'll catch you guys in the next one. So, later.